On Mother's Day, my own mother looked me dead in the eye in front of 40 guests and hissed, "I wish you'd never been born mine. The military turned you into a cold, heartless monster." Something in my chest cracked, quiet and fast, too sudden to even hurt yet. I'm Major Elena Marsh. 14 years in uniform, every paycheck wired home to keep that house afloat, to keep that family fed, and that was my thanks. I didn't cry. I stood up straight and said calmly, "Then from now on, live like you never had me." I turned, pulled the keys to the SUV registered in my name out of my brother's hand, and drove off. 10 minutes later, a text lit up my phone. "Bring the car back now, or I'm calling the police." I smiled, cold, and typed 2 words back.
"Call them."
45 minutes later, 3 patrol cars surrounded that house. But the person who ended up in handcuffs wasn't me. To understand how we got there, you have to go back to that long, quiet drive I took the night everything finally clicked into place. I flipped my phone face down on the passenger seat, ignoring the notifications lighting it up, and merged hard onto the highway, putting distance between myself and a Mother's Day party I'd paid for entirely on my own card. Every appetizer, every balloon, every bottle of wine poured for people who never once said thank you. My knuckles went white on the wheel, the same leather my brother Grant had picked out at the dealership without glancing at the price tag, because it wasn't his money he was spending. I breathed in for 4, held for 4, let it out for 4, the same tactical breathing that used to steady my pulse under fire. And the realization hit me like a gut punch. How thin the line really is between a loving home and a nest of people who just happen to share your blood. I pulled onto the shoulder and killed the engine. Leaning my head back, I let the memories come. Freezing overnight patrols, watching rooftops through thermal optics for hours at a stretch, holding pressure on a 19-year-old's leg in the back of a medevac chopper, screaming rotors overhead, trying to keep him talking so he wouldn't slip under. Missions where I mentally drafted goodbye letters because I genuinely didn't think I'd make it back. The one thing that kept me moving through all of it was the idea that I was pulling my family out of hardship. Every combat bonus, every hazard check, wired straight to my mother's account, supposedly to clear my brother's debts. Instead, he used it to buy tailored suits and lease cars he had no business driving. While I was dodging danger overseas, Grant was busy playing the role of a self-made success story on my dime. Fake business dinners, a website for a company that never made a cent, an office downtown just for the optics. Every bit of it paid for by me, on my knees in the dirt, praying to see another sunrise. I sat there and swallowed that truth whole. I'd tried to buy affection with money and gotten an endless extraction instead. I wasn't a daughter. I was a cash machine that occasionally came home on leave. I opened my eyes, and something in me went rigid with clarity. In their eyes, I wasn't a person who'd earned every promotion in blood. I was a machine you pressed a button on. My mother pressed it. My brother spent what came out. Nobody asked if the machine had a pulse. I shifted back into drive. No tears came, just a cold, tactical calm settling over everything. I looked at myself in the rear view and turned the SUV back toward base. Whatever version of me had spent years accepting this as normal died somewhere on that stretch of highway. The red flags I'd ignored for years came into sharp focus all at once. I remembered Grant last Thanksgiving, swirling bourbon bought on my card, patting the hood of that same SUV in front of his country club friends, and announcing, "This is my new ride," soaking up their praise without correcting a single word of it. He never once said my name. I'd stood on the porch holding a paper plate of grocery store potato salad, erased from my own accomplishment, a vehicle bought with 14 months of combat pay, reduced to a prop in his performance. I remembered my sister-in-law Vanessa standing in the middle of the house I'd bought outright, waving her hand around like she was inspecting a kingdom, announcing to a room full of relatives that this was her husband's ancestral home, that she was about to gut the living room for better flow. My house, paid for with money I earned while nobody else in that family had lifted a finger. I'd stood in the corner, said nothing, picked at a loose thread on my sleeve while my own property got claimed out from under me. But the deepest cuts always came from my mother. I could still hear the exact tone of her sigh every time a wire transfer landed in her account, like she was doing me a favor by accepting it. "This is nothing compared to an officer's salary," she'd say. "You have it easy over there. Your brother's the one who really struggles." In her version of events, the child who bled for the job was the lazy one, and the child spending that money at home was the real sacrifice. Every call ended the same way: a sigh, a jab, an unspoken demand for more. I pulled up to the base gates, flashed my ID, returned the guard's salute, and drove through. The era of being everyone's silent ATM was over. Late that night, my phone buzzed hard against the desk in my quarters. Unknown number. I picked up out of habit. A precinct dispatcher, flat and procedural. "Is this Elena Marsh? We received a stolen vehicle report from someone claiming to be the owner of the SUV currently in your possession." I sat up straight, feet on the cold floor. My brother had actually reported me for stealing my own car. There was no bottom to how far he'd go to save face in front of our mother. If it stuck, it could end my entire career. I didn't raise my voice. "This is Major Elena Marsh, United States Army. I am the sole legal owner of this vehicle. It was not stolen." The officer hesitated, said the reporting party, my brother, insisted otherwise. I told him he was lying, opened my laptop, and within seconds emailed the precinct scanned copies of the title, registration, insurance, and bill of sale, every document bearing only one name. The line went quiet except for typing. With that, my brother's accusation became its own crime, filing a false police report. The same report that had sent 3 patrol cars to that house on Mother's Day and put handcuffs on him instead of me. Early Monday, before sunrise, I walked into the office of Colonel Whitfield, my legal advisor and the closest thing I had left to a father figure since my own dad passed. He didn't offer coffee. He dropped a thick file on the desk. "DoD security flagged your clearance for financial anomalies," he said. "I had to pull your credit report to stop them from yanking your access. Look at this. Massive debt. Designer invoices from stores I'd never set foot in. 5-star dinner tabs. Spa charges, jewelry, a golf membership. All run through a supplementary card I'd given my mother strictly for groceries. My brother and his wife had used it as a blank check." Whitfield looked at me, disappointed. "They're draining you dry, Elena. Why do you let this keep happening?" I looked at the small photo on the corner of his desk. My late father in his old uniform, standing at parade rest, a man who worked 2 jobs and never once complained. He died a month before my first deployment. I never got to say goodbye. I told Whitfield the truth. "I'm afraid if I stop, she'll disown me. I'm afraid I'll lose the only family I have left." He leaned forward. "Buying affection with money isn't family, Elena. It's blackmail. Your father would never have tolerated this." Something cleared in my head, instantly and completely. My father taught me to stand my ground, and here I was funding the very people who'd made a habit of erasing me. I wasn't helping my brother become a man. I was manufacturing his dependence, one wire transfer at a time. I looked up at Whitfield. "I'm done. I need every financial line to them cut, now." He slid the desk phone toward me and hit speaker. I called my bank, got a live operator, and gave the order: freeze every supplementary card tied to my account, effective immediately, no exceptions. 30 seconds later, it was done. Somewhere across town, my mother's card was about to decline at a checkout counter. Whitfield pulled up my service life insurance policy next, the one that would pay out a substantial sum if I were killed overseas. My mother and brother were listed as beneficiaries. I deleted them both on the spot and named a veterans charity instead. If I fall, they get nothing. Then came the house, the one Vanessa called her husband's ancestral home. My name was the only one on the deed, paid off entirely with combat earnings. Whitfield pulled a 30-day notice to vacate from his drawer, already drafted by an attorney I'd retained that morning. I signed every page without hesitation. For the first time in my life, I chose cold logic over blind loyalty to blood, and it felt like relief, not guilt. By Monday afternoon, word had clearly spread. My mother, brother, and sister-in-law had been publicly humiliated at registers all over town, cards declining one after another. My brother got a call about the open investigation into his false report. Instead of apologizing, all three of them piled into a car and drove straight to the base gates, screaming for me, demanding the car back, demanding cash. I walked out in uniform, spine straight, and felt nothing but calm. My brother lunged forward, demanding to know what I'd done to his cards, where his car was. I didn't argue with a man who'd never earned a single thing he owned. I dropped a folder of his debt statements at his feet, the eviction notice right on top, served in front of military police as witnesses. Vanessa scrambled to read it on her knees in the gravel. "What is this? You sold our house." "My house," I corrected her. "And I've donated it. You have 30 days. My mother lost whatever composure she had left, grabbing at my sleeve, invoking the guilt she'd perfected over 40 years. "I carried you. How could you do this to your own family?" I looked at her and felt nothing. I told her plainly, "You have your golden son now. Let him take care of you. I'm no longer this family's bank." Then I turned to the MPs. "There's an active warrant for a false police report. Take him in." I didn't look back as they cuffed him against the hood of the car. Over the following days, the whole structure came apart without any further push from me. My brother's remaining cards bounced everywhere. His fake business contacts stopped calling by midweek. His club membership was pulled. His leased car was repossessed while the neighbors watched. He was finally living without my wallet as a shield. Relatives who'd never once sent so much as a card during my deployments called to lecture me, my aunt screaming that I was a heartless, unfilial monster. I calmly agreed and suggested she and my uncle take my mother and brother in themselves. The line went dead within seconds. An excuse about needing to check the oven mumbled on the way out. Righteous anger, it turns out, is cheap until it comes with a price tag attached. Vanessa called me late one night, sobbing, insisting she hadn't known that Grant told her the business was real. I listened in silence for half a minute and hung up without a word. Her tears weren't remorse. They were grief for a lifestyle that had stopped working. Weeks passed. I stayed on base, drank bad coffee with Sergeant Boone, and talked things through with our chaplain, listening to recruits drilling outside my window. I didn't need to do anything else. The truth was doing all the punishing on its own. Then, on a Sunday night close to the eviction deadline, there was a knock at my off-base apartment. My mother and brother stood there in the cold. No designer clothes, no smugness left. Just two people who looked hollowed out, chased into a corner by debt collectors who had no interest in family drama. My mother tried the old routine, grabbing my sleeve, eyes darting past me for anything worth taking. I'd seen it 1,000 times. Then my brother collapsed to the floor entirely, sobbing, slamming his fist against the boards. "I hate your uniform," he choked out. "I hate every medal on your chest, because everywhere you go people respect you, and I'm 40 years old, and I'm nothing without you." His suits had always been armor for exactly that shame. Part of me wanted to reach for my checkbook the way I always had. But 14 years of discipline held. I refused to hand him a way back into the same cycle. Instead, I offered one condition. "I'll cover exactly one emergency debt for the kids' sake," I told him. "But you sign on for real work, construction, a trade, whatever it takes, and you earn the rest yourself. Mom, you move somewhere you can actually afford on your pension." My mother started to protest. I raised one finger, and for once, she stopped. It was the hardest form of love I'd ever offered anyone, harder than any order I'd given under fire. I was letting them burn down to nothing so they could finally learn how to rebuild. A year later, my brother wasn't wearing tailored suits anymore. His hands were rough, permanently stained from work on a construction crew, driving a beat-up truck to a job site 6 days a week. He looked older and 100 times more honest. My mother learned to shop with coupons, to count change at the register, to know the actual price of things. The insults had disappeared, replaced by something closer to quiet respect. We didn't do five-star dinners anymore. We sat on plastic chairs in a small backyard, grilling cheap cuts of pork over a rusty pit. No performance, no lies. Just a family finally being honest with itself. I walked in wearing my new rank, the insignia catching the late sun, and watched my brother flip meat over the coals with arms built from real work instead of tailored to hide a lie. My mother wiped off a chair for me without being asked and poured me a glass of tea. She didn't apologize out loud. She didn't need to. Standing in that yard, listening to my brother's kids laughing somewhere behind me, I finally understood the biggest lesson of my life. Sometimes refusing to rescue someone is the only way to actually save them. Dignity isn't something you can hand someone, it has to be earned. And for the first time in years, watching my family eat a meal they'd finally paid for themselves, I felt something close to peace.